This is Talking My Walking. I am Rodrigo Ribeiro, just another voice in the wilderness. Today I want to talk about how and why we perceive, or most of us perceive, that interest, compound interest, and uh, and other issues related with the money, the way we do, and why it matters. Um, First things first, uh, there are different debts, but in general, that is a concept, is a that is weaponized. Is weaponized. It is morally weaponized, and it has to do with how we should feel guilt, shame, obligation to pay, uh, that debts need to be paid. Period. Because which makes sense in because this is an historic thing. Okay, if you want to learn something about that, uh, you can read the book by David Graeber, uh, that the last 5,000 years. I think I'm correct, the title of the book. And there are many other people, but you can, this book and the books by Michael Hudson, uh, because he's an historian of ancient economies, uh, ancient ways, the ways to lead with that, um, because debt, uh, and interest and compound interest makes it impossible to pay, because one thing we need to grasp about that, generally speaking, is that will always increase faster than the ability to pay it. This is because it's by design, you know. That and the whole system, the whole economic and financial system, and especially the financialized economy, is based on that. Capitalism is based on that. And in modern fiat currencies that are not backed by gold, by anything, just by law, okay, just by the state, which is that's why the euro is an aberration. It was not an aberration for Germany. It was crucial for Germany. Okay, uh, it made the Germany much more competitive internationally, and above all among the other European countries that adopted the euro. So the thing is, the most money is is created through credit, through debt. And most money that is created these days is private debt. And a lot of money that this goes to buy assets, not to build assets, not to build new bridges, new roads, new project, or whatever it is that is necessary for society, or even for industrial purposes. Most of it goes to speculation. Okay, speculation. And why inflation? Why things that used to cost pennies on the dollar now costs, I mean, just in some cases hundreds of times more. Why is that? Is it necessary? Of course not. That is part of this game. And they make us, these big banks, investors, private equity firms, private investment firms, all these private financing firms, this shadow banking system. These people, most of these that we call investments is debt leverage. That's why these people are insolvent, and we perceive them as entrepreneurs. This is the entrepreneurial class. And there is also this, they buy companies to destroy them. This is so many. I cannot explain it. I'm not an expert, but I try hard. I tried my best to understand, not exactly to be able to explain it, but to understand it in order to be politically and socially aware, and economically and culturally, because this always goes together. That I have a take that is based on facts, not in fiction. These people are not entrepreneurs. They are parasites to start with. That's what rentier capitalism is. And they get they can have ways to, because they are all pals, because since the abolition in the 90s by Mr. Clinton of the Glass-Steagall Act, this is just a mess. This is just this is just inbreeding. This is absolutely crazy. These people, they have, they literally control everything, and they have access to free money. Do you think they pay their debts? No, they leverage them. That's why the pile, it's compounding, it's growing. And the problem with this is that they can buy real assets, land, buildings, technologies, knowledge. Also, they take control of real assets that are, as you think, they take control of our public systems, water, energy, hospitals, health system, education system. They take control everything, and most of the time they don't even improve it because it's rentier capitalism, and they make sure they keep the story. They keep us that our debts, because if you when you ask for a loan or something, you feel the obligation to pay. It makes sense. Okay, it's reasonable. All right, but for example, I'm going to give you an example. If you would see yourself in the situation where where for example you would have to work for somebody, a company, a farm, whatever, doesn't matter, where they would go there and say, okay, I give you this room, I give you the food, and I give you this and that you need to survive, and you work for me, and you owe me this amount of money. You start by in that to a person that will say how much we're going to win, how much you are going to get in your pocket. And if the amount you get in your pocket, it's not going to be enough to pay the debt for your items, for the food, for the shelter, for the whatever you need to survive, your debt plus interest is going to grow. And you are working hard every day, but you cannot pay the debt because it was designed like that by the person that controls the system, which in this case is the company, is the farmer, is the whatever. I mean, do you understand my point? So you tell me if this situation where you cannot pay, you are not able to pay the debt, but you are not even able to avoid it to grow. So you are enslaved. And this is what we have. This is the system in place. That's why that is not a moral question. That is a justice issue, is a political issue. That's why in the past it would be solved politically. You can listen or read Michael Hudson and others. And the one I know best is Michael Hudson, the work I know better. So if you think about, in agrarian economies, okay, that's why private banking is really a bad idea. Okay, I'm going to tell you why. Private control of money. in an agrarian, but we can apply this to any society. But okay, let's get to an agrarian society to simplify the example. Agrarian societies basically depend on growing stuff. Okay, that's animals, grains, fruits, vegetables, this and that, so forth and so on. So there is this um, uh, to feed people, or even to sell, to export. And if the farmers, the peasants, they need money in advance to buy whatever it is, fertilizer, seeds, to feed the animals, or to for the machines, in the case if there is machinery. So you need money in advance. How does it how it worked before? Even in during the wartime, and even after that, in around 90 years ago, most people would go to the grocery shop, and they would have an account there in a bookkeeping. The owner of the shop would write down what people would buy, the basic needs, sugar, flour, rice, salt, those coffee, those simple things that people would need to. It was most common to have in the household. And people would not, most of the time, they didn't have money to pay for it. They would have to wait until they could sell the pigs. They could sell the new olive oil. They could sell the grains. They could sell the grapes. Because that's the economy was, for the most part, and since, for example, Portugal was a rural country, most people were basically surviving in family farming, small family farming. Most people would have their olive groves, they would have the grape yard, and then for their own consumption, but also to sell the extra production, exactly the sources of money. But those sources of money were seasonal. So therefore, the grocery, the people, the people, they would own money. They were in that too. Would have to wait until they had the money to pay for it. So this is fair enough, but just think about it. In the case of this, is that you are going to pay for a real thing that you are going to use, okay? But you are not going to pay interest rates on that. For the most part, there was no interest rates on those exchanges. But if you need to go to a bank, to a private bank, and ask for money that you need to buy your seeds, your fertilizer, to all the inputs, or at least some of the inputs that you need to for your farming, to grow your crop that you expect to sell for a fair price that you can that then you can pay your debts and have some surplus for you. And you have to pay interest rate. Okay, you have to pay interest on that debt. And imagine that that's not your responsibility. That's not your you have not been neglect. It's not about neglect or about irresponsibility or about whatever. But that can happen. Weather events and also market events in the modern case, that you just are not able, your crop just fails, or the market, the so-called market, is not going to pay for your crop enough for you to pay your debt, much less the interest. So, is that debt, is the idea that you have to pay that debt or the bank to take over, to take away from you your farm, the place where that is even might be a generational asset that has meaning, that is not only that has not only economic meaning, but has existential meaning for you, for your family. But because they have of your moral duty to pay the debt, they can take it away from you like that, and you must feel ashamed, or you must feel, that maybe is something wrong with you or whatever, not with them. No, that should not be paid, because that is only money. And money is nothing. Money is is part of a virtual reality. It's a concept that needs to be validated by law. That needs a state to back it. That's why some people say, and I do agree with that this digital money, this kind of bitcoins and this and that, is not money, because it doesn't. I mean, it is a Ponzi. It's a scheme. But I don't want to go there right now. So you, me, we have been raised to think about money as a thing. That's why these people that think gold is money, they are wrong. Gold can be used as money and can be used as a store of value. But money is not gold. Because money can be anything, as it has been used many things. From tally sticks, shells, feathers, salt. I mean, in prison, sometimes, or it used to be, cigarettes used to be money, currency. So money, that's why the problem starts with our concept of money, with the ordinary, or with the common sense of what money is. You go to the. That's why, if the banking system is the financial system, the banking, the creation of money, is in public hands, it's easier by politically to erase the debts. And for example, for those people that I have been working hard to pay my mortgage, and it's unfair. It's that these people just I mean those kind of justifications that always the hard working people are the ones that in the end are are negatively impacted, and the ones the lazy people. I mean, you can see it. Do you remember that about the pigs in the European? It was Portugal, Italy, and then it was also Ireland, Greece, and Spain. But she started with the Portugal, Italy, Greece, and Spain. The pigs, the lazy pigs, and the hard-working, the Central Europeans and the North European countries, the Scandinavians, these hard working, and these guys down there just want wine and food and prostitutes and what they to have fun. They want to have fun, and we work hard, and then we have to pay for them. You have to they have to pay their debts. They take this and that. So, if the money is publicly owned, there are many ways to solve the problem. That can be politically solved in several ways. We don't need to. The thing is, you can, for example, if you want to be fair, if you want to analyze in certain, I mean, there is always, every time there is let me just see, because I know it in Portugal. Sometimes when there is a local weather event, especially during this summer, when you get I don't remember the name right now. When the rain is when it rains, but it's not rain, is stones. We call it stone. And it just destroys your grapes, or destroys. I mean, it's just, or whatever it is, because in the season where things are almost ripe to be picked, when the crops are almost ready, it is a disaster. And sometimes this is very localized events, as everybody knows. It's storms and thunderstorms and things like that, very localized. And people understand that the government opens the public purse and helps these people, because it's easy to understand that these people have been not only working but spending money, because you need to spend money to buy many things in order to grow the crops. So it is, and even so, these people can understand. But when it comes to that, it seems that this is more sacred than God itself, for those that believe in God. And nonetheless, as I said, we live in a system, capitalist system, is a debt-based system to start with. So there is the need that somebody, people, individuals, families, companies, corporations, whatever, in different countries need to go into that in order for the system to work. So this is to start with. So that is not a failure. That's not because okay, people can save money, and instead of being that's they can really be much more how can I say it, they can be um, they not to want things immediately, but to wait and save more money and this and that, and then la, la, la. No, it's not how the system works. If people would stop going into that, the companies and everything would collapse, because this is a debt-based system. We, at the individual level and the family level, we have we think the system itself works as like the budget. That's what they tell us. The budget, the government budget, is just like a family budget, which it is not. But we perceive the ideas through the lenses of our own comprehension, of our own experience as individuals and as families. That's why when somebody is in that, to what we, if somebody borrows money from you, we expect them to pay it, or if they borrow whatever it is, you expect them to give it back. Okay, which is fair enough. But in the question of money, it should not be a moral issue, an extremely weaponized moral issue, because money is not a thing. You can print money. In this case, we don't print money anymore. We print just a very small amount of money. It is a question of controlling us. That is a weapon that controls both our minds, because it's of this moral weaponization, controls our behavior, controls our physical lives. And if the banking system is controlled by the government, it's controlled not by government, it's public banking system, the possibility to erase the debts, you don't have to be it's easier, and it should be natural. Exactly as they did in ancient times, that then people would not go into slavery, bondage, into private entities. That's exactly the idea. We should not if we really, people who really care about freedom and about individual rights, they need to care that the money system controlled by private ends is a disaster for freedom and for democracy. is a disaster. Because it's when the system becomes the you don't have a democracy, you have a plutocracy ruled by the wealthy. No. Which means that those with the wealth, in this case, those who control how much wealth is created, how much money, how much debt. Because as I'm trying to emphasize, most new money, or if I'm not sure if it's not all money, but most money is created through debt, credit, and into whose hands is going to be most of this newly created money, and what purpose? That's why it's so different. If you have public banking, controlled democratically, you can direct the money for productive investments, for a true socio-ecological economy. And this and then that's again the idea that then it's the debt problem. When eventually there is a debt problem, it can be politically solved, as it is also now politically solved, as it was politically solved in 2008, but not democratically, not for the good, the well-being of the people, but to save the so-called too big to fail banksters, banks and financial institutions. Because the merger of the investment bank, since the protection, the last Stigl Act was abolished, investment banking and commercial banking, I mean, there is conflict of interests. And this is still going on. I mean, this is worse today. Because in the West, we are completely controlled by financial institutions because they have all the power. They are the ones that control the faucet. They open it and they close it according to their own interests. But they make sure that we understand that as a moral issue, that we must lose everything, kill ourselves, put our families and our children through the most painful and hardship, unnecessary suffering, to pay debts that are unpayable. And we perceive it as a moral issue instead of a justice issue. Which is the point. That is a justice issue. Justice political issue is not a moral issue. But most of us don't understand it. Don't understand because we don't understand how the money system operates. How money is created. Who creates most money? Who pulls the strings? People don't understand that that is bad. The we I mean I feel I have to make a video about it. Um, uh, you know, they here it goes our tax money. I mean, forget about that. Taxes were not invented um, to 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 fund anything. Taxes were invented to take away money from the economy. It is the other way around. It was a way to um, to extinguish money. Because again, we think about money as a thing, and then we think about money as something that once it exists, it never goes away, which is not true, as you can see how the trade how the markets work. In a single day, or in a single hour, or in a single second, it can be the market can wipe out billions of wealth. Where does it go? No, it doesn't go anywhere, because in the first place it doesn't exist. It exists in the balance sheet. You know. But the main thing that probably most people don't think about is that, is this um, um, is that we don't understand this what money is. That money is not is created in is exactly as many people say. It's created out of thin air. It can be um, and can be erased out of thin air. And when you think about money as that, you can also think that that should be that's how we should also deal with that, because that is a political issue, in the sense that for the most part that is used as a tool, as a socio-economic tool for control. It's an economic financial tool for social control. That's why they need us to understand that as a moral issue. And we don't complain. We comply. And we fight against each other. We have these moral fights over assumptions and prejudices and biases that are not correct. I mean that because as humans we perceive things through a frame, through a certain lenses. It doesn't matter if it's true or false. That's how our minds work, and we can fight to the death over things like that. And we can and do condemn people to lives in misery. And we talk about children, we talk about this and that, but then people are condemned through the application of false principles to live, to go through unnecessary suffering based on fake morality. while the ones that are immoral, that are opportunists, that are criminals, keep their wealth, don't pay their debts, and are saved by the public power, the state, because only the state, only the state has the power, the political power to solve any problem, because all problems are always end up to be political and the cultural problems, not moral problems. They are political, which means they are a question of legality, justice, truth, and trust. And why cultural? Because cultural is what gives meaning. That's how we understand things. Giving meaning is how we use language framing and narratives and ideas and all the rest that goes with it to frame a piece of reality, to have an idea about the whole reality, that it doesn't need to be true or false. It's just how it works. And that's why I think in part of a web of deceit, because that it's so much deceit, so much misinformation, misconceptions, misinterpretations of the reality itself. In this case, I'm talking about the socio-economic and political reality of that, and money, and interest, and compound interest. That we sacrifice our lives. We criminalize and blame other people, and we make our lives miserable to comply with a system that has been tailored, designed, crafted, upgraded to control us, to keep us crippled in a short leash, to keep even our horizons, our mind horizons, so short, so shallow, to dehumanize us so much, to desensitize us so much, that we are really a shade of what we could be as human beings. And it has nothing to do with advanced culture, advanced technology, artistic sophistication, literary sophistication. No. If we lack human sophistication, and by human sophistication I mean human understanding of the very nature of the human, the very socio-cultural nature of the human condition, we truly miss the point, the main point, the core, the roots. And this one that I'm talking about today, which I will come back to this, because as I usually say, I talk about a lot of things and there's a lot of them missing for sure, is one that we need to understand, because it has been a weapon of this civilizational imperialist paradigm. This is class. Again, class, always class, caste, entitlement, privilege. that is always there to justify it, to justify the oppression, the repression, the exploitation, extractivism, genocide, ecocide, everything in the name of civilization, in the name of this, the moral superior. Not only that there are these problems of racial superiority, white supremacy, this and that, but also this moral superiority of this moral the debt as something above. This is the main point. I would like us to discuss it and to think about it. Why should we put these things above life, above the dignity of life? Why do we make people go through so much unnecessary suffering to pay debts that could be so easily erased? And the answer why we keep people, families, organizations, small business, and countries, like in the global south, but not only in the global south, in every country, is in this debt slavery system, is because it's the way to control, to keep controlling the resources, the territories, the people. That's why they need this moral, this aura of these religious ethics around, around that. And in this case, I'm talking particularly this debt to these private banks that should not exist. As people think that interest is fair. No, it's not fair. And compound interest is evil. Aristotle got it right. I don't remember the quote right now, but it is a famous quote by Aristotle. He got it right. About money. You mean? So I hope that you give more time of your life to think about money, debt, interest, compound interest, and how it affects how we think about ourselves, how we perceive ourselves, how we behave, how we interact with others, how we relate to each other and with nature, and even with God, for those, pay money to be saved or to become wealthier at these modern churches. Because it's necessary. It's an absolutely necessity to think about these things and be able to correlate them with the rest of the picture, to put them into the rest of the picture, to see how it is connected with the rest of how we perceive everything. As is part of the processes. The system. We need this understanding of system and relations. This is, I don't know what else to say. I okay, I'm going to end it here. Thanks for listening. I will be back soon, and I hope you all do your best to that we are less and less vulnerable to the multi-layered manipulation, deception machinery that is permanently omnipresent, ubiquitous, trying to control our minds, trying not even to allow us to have a moment of rest, of reflection, of introspection, of self-analysis. This is the truth. This is not conspiracy theories. All right? Thank you for listening. I will be back soon.